Well, I guess I really am talking to myself for this particular video. Thanks a lot, commie assholes, you lying scumbags and you fraudulent cheating thieves. Yes, you have shut me down for the next month or so. But anyway, I'm still going to talk about you, I don't care. Welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus, another unicorn news from me to you, with all that interesting shit that you won't get anywhere else on the internet. Probably because the rest of the internet's fucking terrified of communist personal targeting. That's what I'm putting up with here, and that's what I'm going to tell you about, how the communists have actual military spies, actual Chinese communist soldiers, posing as private individuals, attacking guys like me for criticising communism in this country. This country, a democratic, so-called free country. So it's not going to be all that interesting. This is more for record keeping really, but if you want to know what you've got in store, we have in store as British people in this country, then listen on, because I've got some juicy fucking news for you. So, having checked my accounts, which I just got back, they were all frozen from the millions of scam and fraud attempts that went through both my credit card and my bank account. I couldn't use my bank account for 3 days or my credit card. Not because I didn't have any money on them, they were both paid up and I had loads of money. But it was because my bank froze them because of all the fraudulent attempts of people trying to take money from all these random fucking companies that got set up days ago, presumably for the express purpose of attacking me and others like me. We are the rebellion. Literally, me sat in my lounge on my own. We are the resistance against the fucking commie scum, the trash, the garbage that have the septic sewage that is seeping into our society and trying to basically overthrow our government, and our companies and our private individuals like me are the front line. We are the guys who are protecting your freedoms, or our freedoms, me too. So it's kind of a shame that there isn't more people doing this kind of thing. I mean, it really needs to be done. If you need any proof of why it needs to be done, just look at the tactics that these fuckers are using against me, sat in my lounge. Like I keep saying, I'm not a corporate sponsored guy. I'm paying this out of my own pocket. So when they double charge me £350 and I pay it just so I can continue to talk to you, and then they put a triple charge on there, another £350, I can't absorb that kind of payment. It's just like I say, I don't have a huge income, it's just me sat here. But this is the kind of thing we have to expect from our communist leaders should they ever manage to grab power, like at the election next year. And when I say our communist slave masters, I am of course talking about the traitorous rodent Tories and the zombie, slimy, scummy little stooges at Labour who are actually worse. Like, if that's even possible to be worse than the scumbag Tories, they've managed it. So listen on if you want to know how we are going to defeat these fucking assholes. The reason that they have been so successful is because so far they have been working undetected. Nobody has bothered to overturn the rocks and look at the little insects as they work and as they scurry along. Like I said before, they're spiders crawling across the floor. If they're detected, they're going to get stomped, aren't they? So everything they do is to avoid detection. And in order to avoid detection, they use a host of tricks like fake names, fake accounts, fake everything. And when they're caught, they just throw that identity away and they create a new one. In addition to that, they have plenty of converted spies, us, British people, that they have tricked or bribed or brainwashed into working for them. They obviously don't know what's happening. So, here is what's happening. 1. They have destroyed their own country so badly that it can never recover. Certainly not in the lifetime of me or anyone my age or anyone your age. It will probably take hundreds of thousands of years for China to ever recover. And the reason is this: pollution. All their backchat about net zero and how carbon emissions are killing everyone. Look at the carbon emission stats. They've actually got worse. Carbon emissions have gone up, despite all the European countries, specifically Britain, minimising their carbon output and paying a lot more to get rid of all that carbon. So it's just a slap in the face for us when we're sorting through our recycling so it can all go to the right place, and we're minimising our heating bills so we use less gas, and we're doing things like buying electric cars. We're doing everything we can to save the environment, but we're just a tiny little island. We've got 67 million people here. So imagine this, 67 million people switching their whole lives off and going back to burning a wood stove and using no power at all. Zero carbon footprint that would be. It wouldn't even scratch the surface of the amount of pollution that China, specifically only China, are spewing out into our atmosphere every single minute of every single day. So of course they'll lie about this and they'll propagandize people, then they'll show you pictures of Beijing. Oh, how great is Beijing and Shanghai, you know, the two places where all their wealth is kept, where their built up wealthy cities are and all the technology is. But think about how big China is. China is a fucking massive country. They've got like 380 million people, and that's just the ones they admit to having, that they know about. And the thing is about China, the roads and the trains only go through Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing and Shenzhen. They're all a kind of, they're quite near to each other. The whole rest of China has no roads, no rails, nothing. The way that people get around is they walk. Or they take a motorbike on these little crappy mud roads. Watch the China Show or the ADV podcast. These guys lived there for nearly 15 years. And it even got too hot for them. These guys are campaigners for democracy. They inspired me to start my channel and to quit smoking weed to pay for it. Not that it's done me any good so far, but I will soldier on. Because we here in Britain, we are that kind of people. We will soldier on. We'll take it on the chin and we'll keep fucking coming until we see victory. Whereas the Chinese communists, they're just spineless, bitter cowards and rats. In fact, you know what? I'm thinking now, you know, we used to say yellow. We used to say, oh, you're a fucking yellow, spineless git. Or we used to say yellow to mean cowardly. I'm wondering if that's because of the Chinese being cowardly with their communism. I don't know. Anyway, so continuation on China. They have coal power stations everywhere in the country and they're building more every year, and that's primarily where most of their pollution is coming from. But it doesn't just stop there. When we're ordering things off Alibaba, which by the way has gone into debt now and will probably not last a lot longer, and off Amazon, which will last a lot longer because it's American and they know what the hell they're doing, all the pollution from all the manufacturing that's done in China, they just throw it in the sea. I bet you didn't know this. 98% of China's natural water table, like the underground lakes of water which they pull up to use to drink, 98% of that water is so polluted and fucking ruined that it's completely unusable for any purpose. Understand that you can't even boil it and then treat it. You can't even add calcification pills and then strain them out. You can do nothing. 98% of their water, and they're a fucking huge country with nearly 400 million people. They don't have any water. And guess what? You can't grow food when you have polluted your land so badly that nothing will grow, and you can only water it with unusable, radioactive, toxic, poisonous water. So they fucked their whole country. I don't know why I'm laughing, it's tragic. They've also fucked the skies. So understand this. China has to try and support 400 million people with food and water when their entire country is like a nuclear fucking wasteland. There's nothing they can do. There's no chance that they will ever be able to grow food there again. So what do? They creep into our country like little cockroaches and they try and overthrow our government using our media companies and private individuals who they have bribed and pressured, like the tactics they try with me. They bribe and pressure these people to work for them, or they brainwash them with constant fear propaganda. You know, the hurling fire that I was telling you about in my last video. So that's why they're here. They're literally on death's door. They have no option. They're looking death straight in the face, like their entire nation is staring death in the fucking face. And the only way they're ever going to be able to recover without surrendering and begging for help from other people like us is by taking over our country without blowing it up. So it's a non-violent, non-aggressive takeover of the country. That's what we're seeing, a coup, a non-violent coup. How are they going to achieve this? Well, they put money in the pockets of our politicians until there's sufficient weight in those pockets for those politicians to cross lines and become traitors. So we've got Boris Johnson, he's gone traitor, and his dad actually lives in China now. We've got Rishi Sunak, his entire wealth is from India and China. Like, I'll do a video on that again, I'll mention it in the past. Then you have guys like Keir Starmer. Corbyn, he's just as bad. He sided with the IRA for fuck's sake because they put money in his pocket. All this effort they go to is because they will starve The entire country will starve to death, and they're too fucking arrogant to ask other people for help. This is what confuses me. This really does confuse me. If I was the leader of China and I had 400 million starving people and I couldn't go to war to take over someone else's country for food because A, I'm too weak to actually win any wars with brute force, and B, because I had a one-child policy for 80 years, there is not enough children to replace any dead soldiers. They cannot afford any losses at all. Understand that. Like, if this country with our tiny military, if we went to war and half our military were slain, it's fine. We have enough genetic diversity in our population and enough babies coming out. Even though the birth rate's been dropping, we still are doing okay. We've still got enough babies that are going to grow up and have babies to repopulate all those dead people and keep our country afloat. China haven't got that anymore. They had so much fuss with this fucking stupid, retarded one-child policy that there isn't enough genetic diversity in the whole country of 400 million people. There isn't enough people. Should they have like a third of their army lost, which, by the way, that's exactly what they predict will happen in a brute force conflict, even with 400 million people, if every single one of them became a soldier, a third of them would be killed by our forces because we have better technology and better trained, more loyal, better motivated soldiers, and we would crush them like a fucking cockroach if it came to that. So that's why they use the art of war, you know, the social justice cowardice that I went through before. So we know they can't grow enough food to sustain themselves. They can't go to war with us directly because they'll just get wiped out, and they can't repopulate. That would literally be the end of China, population and land-wise. They'd be fucking dead. So they can't do that. So the only option they've got left, apart from begging for charity or asking for help, which we know they're too fucking arrogant to do. They don't even want to admit any of this stuff. Far from it. They're lying in the news propaganda and telling us that they're doing great. The only option they've got is to sly in with spies and take over the nice, green, fertile, arable countries such as America that grows tons of food really easily and could probably grow 10 times more if they wanted to, and our Great Britain, who doesn't barely grow any food, but we have got loads of green land and our water is fucking lovely and our land is fucking lovely. Our pollution was minimal already, and since this year and last year, since we've been bowing the knee to these Chinese, we've been making it even better. And of course this pleases the Chinese no end because they're planning to come and take this land over, so that we can mass produce enough food to send back to China and feed all the starving. You know, I don't even want to be rude about the Chinese population. They have no chance. They have no freedom over there. They don't even know what's going on in the world. This is how bad it is in China. The regular Chinese person on the street has no education. I'm not talking about Shenzhen, Beijing and Hong Kong. Those places do have education. The other 95% of the country, the other 300 million people, they don't have any education, and the reason they don't is because they don't have power lines. They don't have plumbed water, as we've already talked about. They can't. There's no safe drinking water in the whole country. They have to import it all, or they have to wait until it rains, catch and filter that and use that. So that's why they don't extend the roads out into the country. There's no point. It'd be a massive waste of their resources, and they're kind of short of money since they've spent all their money buying off our politicians. So in conclusion, with all that discussed and realised, now we know they've spent all of their money and they put the entire country of China into huge, never-ending debt. It will never be repaid. In fact, I would go as far as saying the global debt, over half of it is China. And the global pollution problem, almost 100% of it is China. So if they lose this campaign, this stealth attack, this corruption campaign to try and buy our politicians to give the country to them at the expense of our freedom, if they fail, not only are they facing death now, they will never recover, and it will be the end of the Chinese people. And do you know what makes it worse for them? They fucking hate Taiwan, because Taiwan is actually genetically Chinese. Taiwan people are actually genetically Chinese. But unlike the communist China, Taiwan has a democracy which is protected by their international allies, Britain, America and so forth. And unlike China, Taiwan is a beautiful lovely country, and they do grow their own food, they do generate their own power without relying so heavily on coal, and they don't pollute the seas. And they have a free market, they have free elections, they have educated people and a great infrastructure. Taiwan represents everything that China should have been and could have been had they had better, more intelligent leadership and not been under the yoke of the Chinese Communist Party. And that, dear ladies and gents, is the conclusion of this video. We, here in Britain, we do not need to end up like China, which is what will happen if they come here and start giving us orders. If they start calling the shots, there's absolutely no evidence to suggest that they wouldn't do exactly the same thing here to our country as they have done to their own poor Chinese people and their country. And what I mean by that is they will completely destroy the economy by stealing all the land and money and centralising it, and then, you know, effectively misusing it, thieving it for themselves and just frittering it. They will also destroy the land through pollution because they don't know agriculture. They physically don't know how to grow food and then recover the land to regrow it again and again and again. Like our farmers here are so successful, not because they're just hard working, although that is part of it. They are clever. They know exactly what they're fucking doing. Any farmer who's worth his salt in the UK could go anywhere in the world and be the best farmer in that country. In fact, you know what? If China had half a fucking brain in their fucking heads, they would invite British farmers into their country instead of paying our politicians over the odds to try and rig our elections, which might fail. You know, it probably will fail if I've got anything to fucking do with it. Instead of wasting all that money there, what they should be doing is paying our British farmers to go to China and try and help them recover their land, find the bits that aren't completely wrecked, because it's only 97%. That means 3% of their land could grow food. So they need to find those 3% and give it to the British farmers to set up the farms and teach their people how arable farming works on a long-term scale. And then they could start to rebuild. They've got the resources, they've got the money. It's just their leaders are fucking dumb. They are so stupid and arrogant and just idiotic. Now, not only are they destroying what's left of their country now, they're actually happy with how things are going. This is the thing that completely confuses me about the Chinese leadership, right? If your house was on fire, if your garden was toxic, if your water was nuclear radiated shit that you couldn't even put your finger in without dying of cancer, and you definitely can't drink it or grow food with it. If things were so bad as that in your house, what would you do? Would you try and start going to war with your neighbours? I bet you wouldn't. I bet you'd say, somebody help me please, I've really cocked up, I need to recover. And then being as we're a nice friendly bunch over here, all your neighbours would be flooding in to help you. You'd get tons of aid money and you'd get loads of help all over the place, and you'd be able to sort yourself out. In fact, that's what we do here. That's why we haven't got a nuclear radiation pool of water that we can't drink under the ground, and why we have crops that grow really well in this country. We've got all the things that they want. They're jealous of us. And that's why they can never be honest about the fact that they have gone to war with us. They have declared war on us in their own minds. And the only reason they can't outwardly do this is not cowardice, that's just a tactic, that's just a strategy. The reason they cannot admit they're at war with us because they get crushed immediately by the force and weight and power of the Western military machine. You know, the military-industrial complex, whatever they call it. I'm not saying it's perfect, guys, I got my complaints about it as well. But you know what? It's better than having a tin pot army full of half-fed, idiotic, uneducated soldiers that don't even know how to line up properly and shoot guns properly. The PLA is crap. That's why they can't go to war with us. And plus, everybody would hate them. They would hate themselves. So that's why they come over here and they propagandize and they lie and they try and convince us that we're the bad ones. We're doing all that stuff. We're the racist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe, transphobe. It's them. This is the most free, easygoing country for trans people, for gay people, for lesbians, for blacks, for Indians, for Asians, for anyone, even the Chinese. Anyone can come here and have a great life, even at the moment when we're at our lowest. Whereas you try and go there if you're a trans person or a gay person or an Indian or a black person, I fucking dare you. You try and move to China, and if you manage to get there, try and leave. You will not be able to. So that's the end of this video. I could have also said They have a concentration camp with 3 million Uyghur Muslims trapped inside, women and children only by the way, which they are brainwashing and teaching how to cook and shag so they can go off and be Hamas wives and mass produce Hamas soldiers so that they can keep the West distracted with the war against Israel, which Israel are winning anyway. So just remember that. All the videos I've made are about this. This is probably the best summary of my entire channel that will ever exist. Certainly while they're scamming my bank accounts and making sure I can't publicise my videos, they reduced all my like counters to 0, pretty much on a weekly basis. They triple charge my promos to make sure I have no money and I can't push my videos out to tell you these things. But nevertheless, I don't need to tell you these things. I can leave the video here, and over the weeks and months and years coming up to the election, I will have money, because my country allows me to come back from stuff like that. That's the conclusion of this video. Communist China and communism in general, socialism, Marxism, all these systems, constant revolution is what they go for. They're all about fighting. That's all they can do. The only thing they can do is fight and scrap and piss people off, lie, steal, bribe and propagandize. The art of social justice war. That's all they've got. And that's why they're doing that. But we have so much more than that here. Britain is a democratic, free country no matter what happens. And we can grow our own food, we can make our own power. We are industrious, intelligent, educated, moral, decent people. Ladies, gents and Pikachus, you, me and everyone here. And that's why we can invite all these foreigners in. We can invite Asians, blacks, Indians, Chinese, Hamas people, whoever. We can weather the storm, we can take it on the chin and we can soldier on. Not because we're just magically great naturally, no, we're born the same as anyone else. It's because our country is a free democracy and it supports that kind of thing. And because we've had a free democracy for X amount of hundreds of years, we got the money to come back from shit like this. So that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, that is the real end of this video. Please be motivated by this. Don't be afraid of these guys. They're cowards. They're fucking terrified of us. They're fucking terrified of me. A guy sat here in his pajamas with a wig on, faking being a female unicorn. They're fucking scared of me. They're so scared of me that they fraudulently attack me every day. They're trying to scam my bank accounts, but they won't show their face to me because they know even me, one guy, my democratic power will smash them. No fucking problem. That's why they have to hide. But we don't. Why are we the silent majority? We don't need to hide. We don't need to bend over for these assholes. I'll tell you what we do need to do. We need to realise that the Tories and Labour are the guys that they have bought. They have stuffed these fucking traitors' pockets full of Chinese stolen money for the express reason of nudging our democratic power off the chart. And how they do that is by picking off private citizens one at a time, like I keep saying. I am now their latest target, so they're trying to pick me off. I can tell you they'll get fucking nowhere. They'll see this if they want to show their face to me, which they don't, because they know they'll get wiped out. But if they want to come and shake hands with me and be honest, I will help them out. I will start telling people how great China is. If it starts being good, I will not lie for them, and I will not let them lie about us to you. We are the best country in the world. British people are the reason it's the best country in the world. We made it this way. And we are the reason why it will stay this way forever. So what we need to do at the next election is kick out the traitorous fucking Tory rats and Labour scumbags. Out you go. And we need to install good, moral, regular British people like you and I for the betterment of all and a return to classic British values. Democracy, freedom of speech, personal sovereignty. You being the captain of your own life. And having a government that's got the guts to back you up. Police that can catch criminals and protect you on the street. No matter what you're doing, whether you're gay, trans or straight, or whether you dress like a Pikachu or not, it doesn't fucking matter. As long as you are lawful, legal, moral and good, this country will be here for you. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Oh yeah, I said it was going to be my last video. What I meant was, it's going to be my last video that people will see. This will probably get no views at all. But like I said, I don't really care because in the months to come leading up to the election, I will financially recover. I'll solve all these little fraudulent scams. I'll get my money back. I'll clear my Google Ads account. And when I do, and I'm talking directly to you, you yellow fucking Chinese spineless little fucking assholes, I'm going to dump so much money into this video going out to millions of people, you will not be able to stop it. It will be like plugging a fucking waterfall with your finger. It ain't going to be enough to stop the deluge of truth that comes out of this channel into the eyes and ears of the British people. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. What do you think about that, pixelated soft porn star? Oh, I knew it was you all along, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to be good. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm going to go off and eat some food, have a cigarette and a cup of tea, and go to my bed. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye now. Bye-bye.